Here's something that stopped me cold the first time I read it. The exercise that Harvard Health now says may be the most effective of all for lowering blood pressure isn't walking. It isn't swimming. And it's nothing you'd find in a typical cardiology pamphlet. Most people over 60 are still doing the one thing that does the least, while skipping the thing that does the most. And I'm going to show you exactly what that is today. But I'm starting with the 4 that build the foundation first, because the order actually matters. Don't skip ahead. We're covering 5 exercises, all backed by real research, all doable at home. And by the end, you'll know which one to try first thing tomorrow morning. Before we get into the list, here's what's actually happening inside your body when blood pressure rises with age. Your arteries gradually stiffen. The heart has to push harder. And that constant extra effort is what wears things down over time. What exercise does, certain kinds of exercise, is teach the blood vessels to relax and widen. It lowers the hormones that keep them clamped tight. It trains the heart to work smarter, not harder. The CDC reports that nearly half of American adults have high blood pressure. Among adults over 60, that number is significantly higher. So this isn't a niche problem. This is most of us. Real quick, if you found this because you're actively trying to manage your blood pressure without just adding another pill, then this channel exists for exactly that reason. I spend a lot of hours tracking down what the real research actually says versus what gets oversimplified. If that matters to you, subscribing is honestly the best way to tell me to keep going. It takes one tap and it means a lot. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the one most of you are probably already doing, because even though it's not the strongest on this list, it still earns its place. Brisk walking. Not a stroll. Brisk. Enough that conversation takes a little effort. Harvard Health lists moderate aerobic exercise as a well-established foundation for blood pressure control. The American Heart Association recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity per week. That's about 30 minutes, 5 days. And research consistently shows it can help lower both systolic and diastolic readings over time. The mechanism is simple. Sustained moderate effort trains the heart to pump more efficiently. Less force required per beat. The vessels adapt and stay more flexible. A woman named Claudette, 67, a retired librarian, told herself for years that her evening walks were good enough. But she was walking slowly, stopping often, treating it more like a wander than a workout. When she bumped the pace until she could just barely carry a conversation, she noticed her afternoon energy shift within about 3 weeks. Her doctor noticed the readings shift within 2 months. 30 minutes. 5 days. Keep the pace honest. Now here's where a lot of people over 60 pull back. And it's one of the most costly mistakes I see in the research. Strength training. Resistance work. People assume it spikes blood pressure and leaves it there. What actually happens, with proper technique, controlled breathing, and appropriate weight, is the opposite of that over time. The AHA and Harvard Health both include dynamic resistance training as a recommended strategy for hypertension management. A major analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that resistance training produced meaningful reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. The key word is dynamic. Full range of motion, controlled tempo, not breath holding. 2 to 3 sessions a week. Body weight counts, wall push-ups, sit to stands from a chair, light dumbbells, all of it qualifies. If you've been avoiding this because of the blood pressure concern, that concern is actually the best reason to start. And this one connects naturally to the last, because it gives you the cardiovascular benefit of aerobic work with almost zero joint stress. Swimming, and aquatic exercise more broadly, is something Harvard Health specifically calls out for people with hypertension. The water supports your body weight. Your heart still gets the workout. And there's something about immersion, the gentle pressure of water on the limbs, that researchers believe may itself contribute to lower vascular resistance during activity. A man named Desmond, 72, a former high school coach with 2 bad knees, had essentially written off any real exercise after a knee replacement. His physical therapist suggested water aerobics. He thought it sounded too easy. Within about a month, he stopped thinking that. His joints cooperated. His energy came back. And his next checkup showed readings his doctor hadn't seen from him in years. 3 sessions a week in a pool, even shallow water walking, counts. If you have access, this one is worth prioritizing. We're halfway through, and here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Everything so far, the walking, the resistance work, the water, all of it is working through the same core pathway, training the cardiovascular system to function with less strain. Each one reinforces the next, but the 2 I'm about to share are the ones that genuinely changed how I think about blood pressure management after 60. One of them takes less than 10 minutes a day, and you do it seated. And the research behind it, especially from Harvard, is harder to ignore than almost anything else on this list. Before I get there, drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 3 you're already doing, or what's been getting in the way. I read every one of them, and sometimes those comments shape what I cover next. That's not a line. I mean it. Now we're getting into the territory that surprises people, because this one doesn't feel like exercise in the traditional sense. Yoga. And I don't mean advanced poses or flexibility you don't have. I mean slow, deliberate movement paired with controlled breathing. The reason it works on blood pressure is the nervous system. Yoga consistently activates the parasympathetic branch, the rest and regulate side, which directly counters the stress hormones that keep blood pressure elevated. A 2019 review published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings found that yoga interventions were associated with meaningful reductions in blood pressure among people with hypertension, particularly when breathing techniques were included. 15 to 20 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. Chair yoga counts. Slow stretching with breath focus counts. The breath is actually the mechanism, the movement just anchors it. Here it is. The one that genuinely caught me off guard when I first dug into the research. And the one Harvard Health now ranks as potentially the most effective exercise type for lowering blood pressure. Isometric exercise. No movement. Pure static muscle contraction. You press, hold, and release. That's it. Here's what's happening inside your body. When you hold a muscle in sustained contraction, say squeezing a hand grip device or pressing your palms together, blood flow to that muscle temporarily decreases. When you release, there's a reactive surge of blood flow and a drop in vascular resistance. Done consistently, the body adapts. The blood vessels learn to regulate more efficiently. A landmark meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, one Harvard Health specifically cites, found that isometric exercise produced the largest reductions in blood pressure compared to aerobic, resistance, or combined training. We're talking clinically meaningful drops in systolic pressure. A woman named Rosalind, 64, a semi-retired accountant, came across isometric hand grip training almost by accident. Her cardiologist mentioned it offhand. She started with 2 minutes per hand, 4 holds of about 30 seconds, 3 days a week. She kept everything else the same. Within about 6 weeks, her readings had shifted enough that her doctor asked what she'd changed. The protocol Harvard references hand grip squeezes or wall sits, 4 sets holding 2 minutes each, with rest between, 3 to 4 days a week. You can do this in a chair, watching television. Before bed, this is the one to start with. Tomorrow morning, try a 2-minute wall sit. Just find a wall, slide down until your thighs are roughly parallel, and hold. That's it. Here's the thing about these 5. None of them is a cure. None of them works overnight. But together, they hit blood pressure from 3 separate directions. Aerobic work, like walking and swimming, trains the heart and keeps vessels flexible. Resistance training builds the metabolic machinery that regulates pressure long-term. Yoga resets the nervous system and blunts the stress response. And isometric exercise, done consistently, appears to produce the single sharpest reduction of any solo exercise type in the research. When you stack even 2 or 3 of these into a weekly rhythm, you're not just exercising, You're running a coordinated strategy. And for most people over 60, that's what it takes to actually move the needle. If you've got someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, who's been told their blood pressure is creeping up and they don't know what to actually do about it, send this to them. One tap, that's all. You might just hand them the piece of information their doctor never had time to explain. Let's land this. 5 exercises. Brisk walking, 30 minutes, 5 days a week, honest pace. Dynamic resistance training, 2 to 3 sessions, full range, controlled breathing. Aquatic movement, if you have access. Prioritize it, especially if joints are an issue. Yoga with breath work, 15 to 20 minutes. Parasympathetic reset, 3 to 4 times a week. And isometric training, the one to start tomorrow, 4 holds, 2 minutes each, 3 to 4 days a week, seated if you need to be. If you only pick one thing to try first, make it the wall sit or the hand grip. It costs you nothing. It takes 10 minutes, and the research behind it is genuinely hard to argue with. Your body isn't broken. It's not just aging on you. It's actually waiting for the right kind of challenge to adapt to. These 5 give it that challenge without fighting against where you are right now. If this video gave you something useful, the best thing you can do for this channel is leave it playing, share it with one person, and stick around for the next one. I'm working on something right now about what happens to blood pressure during sleep after 60, and some of what I found genuinely surprised me. I'd hate for you to miss that one. This channel is for general educational purposes only. Always consult your doctor or qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your diet, exercise, or supplement routine.